A woman survived the wreck. Decades later, she said something that should not be possible. She said the iceberg didn't sink the Titanic, not directly, not alone. For 100 years, historians called it exaggeration. But new evidence says she might have been closer to the truth than anyone admitted. The night of April 14, 1912, the press had already dubbed the Titanic unsinkable. 16 watertight compartments, steel double hull, a ship many believed could survive any collision. Then it hit ice at 11:40 p.m. Less than 3 hours later, it was gone. Officially, one iceberg did all of that damage. The survivor testimony says otherwise. Frank Prentice was a storekeeper aboard Titanic. He survived by jumping from the stern as it lifted into the sky. Years later, in a recorded interview, he described something strange. Not just groaning metal. He described a loud, muffled explosion from deep within the hull before the final plunge. That detail rarely makes the documentaries. He wasn't the only one. Passengers in lifeboats described a sound like distant thunder or cannon fire rolling across the water. Officers on nearby ships reportedly heard it too. Some investigators concluded the sound was boilers exploding as they hit freezing seawater, though the official inquiry never definitively confirmed this. Some survivors insisted the sound came first, before the water reached the boilers at all. Here's what the movies leave out. Titanic left Southampton already on fire. A coal bunker fire had been burning in boiler room number 6 since before the ship even departed Belfast. Stokers shoveled burning coal for days trying to control it. It was still smoldering the night of the collision. That fire burned against a steel bulkhead for nearly 2 weeks. Some researchers who later studied the recovered wreckage have pointed to discoloration and weakening in that exact area, though the connection remains debated among Titanic historians. If real, that weakened steel sat right where the iceberg would eventually strike. A detail the official inquiry touched on only briefly without further investigation. Some engineers believe the fire-damaged hull couldn't handle a hit that a fresh, undamaged hull might have survived. Not the iceberg alone, not the fire alone. A ship already wounded, then struck in its weakest spot. That is the version the survivor from Scene 1 may have been trying to describe. Now here's where the internet always jumps the rails. The moment anyone mentions Titanic conspiracies, someone brings up J.P. Morgan. He owned the shipping line through his International Mercantile Marine. He was booked on that voyage in a private suite, and he canceled at the last minute. That part is true. What people build on top of it usually is not. The claim goes like this. Morgan and a handful of powerful bankers canceled their tickets because they knew the ship would sink, supposedly to clear opposition to the Federal Reserve, which was created the following year in 1913. It is a compelling story. It is also missing almost every piece of evidence that would make it true. Morgan's own staff recorded his cancellation weeks before departure, citing his health. He was recovering in France and had done this before on other voyages. Passenger cancellations were common and unremarkable. Dozens of people canceled that spring for coal strikes, schedule changes, and ordinary illness. Morgan was simply one more name on that list. As for the Federal Reserve theory, the men blamed for orchestrating it were not even unified in supporting the same banking reform. Their business interests often clashed, and insurance records from 1912 show underwriters actually lost money on the disaster. If this was a plot for profit, it was a spectacularly bad one. That does not mean nothing suspicious happened around Titanic's finances. It means the suspicious part was ordinary Gilded Age greed, not a secret assassination plot. The real story is stranger than the myth, because it does not need a villain twirling a mustache. It just needs a company cutting corners. White Star Line was in a public battle for prestige against rival Cunard, whose ships Lusitania and Mauretania had already broken speed records. Titanic's owners wanted speed and size over caution. According to testimony from the shipbuilder's naval architect, lifeboats were reduced below what earlier plans called for, reportedly to keep the decks looking clean and spacious for first-class passengers. That decision, made in a boardroom years before the sinking, killed more people than any iceberg ever could. Titanic carried enough lifeboats for about half the people aboard, and that was still following the letter of outdated regulations. Nobody broke the law. That is the disturbing part. The law simply had not caught up to how big ships had become. Survivors froze in the water within lifeboats that launched half-empty. 10 miles away, another ship sat still in the ice field that night. The Californian. Her crew reportedly saw distress rockets fired from a ship on the horizon. They did nothing. Their wireless operator had reportedly gone to bed about 10 minutes before Titanic struck the iceberg and remained asleep through the ship's distress calls that went out roughly half an hour later. Some historians argue that if that radio had stayed on, help might have arrived within the hour. Instead, rescue came nearly 2 hours after Titanic vanished, and by then, hundreds who abandoned ship into the freezing Atlantic were already gone. Survivor testimony from lifeboats describes hearing hundreds of voices in the dark, and then silence. Survivor accounts from that night rarely agree with each other, and that is not a flaw. It is data. Different decks, different vantage points, different degrees of shock and cold. One woman described the ship breaking cleanly in two. For decades, officials insisted it sank in one piece. Wreckage found in 1985 proved her right. So when a survivor says the iceberg did not sink the ship alone, that is not necessarily a conspiracy theory. It might just be someone who was there, describing what she actually experienced, decades before science caught up to confirm it. Titanic survivors were dismissed for years. Some of their strangest claims turned out to be the most accurate. So what actually sank the Titanic? Start with a hull weakened by a fire nobody fully controlled for 10 days. Add a collision in the exact weak point of that hull. Add steel rivets, some made with substandard iron, that some metallurgists believe turned brittle in freezing water, based on later testing of recovered wreckage, though this theory remains debated among experts. Add a design that let compartments flood over the top like ice cube trays. Add a lifeboat shortage caused by boardroom vanity. Add a nearby ship that never got the message in time. None of these facts require a hidden banking conspiracy. They are all documented, all provable, and together, they are far more disturbing than one clean iceberg strike ever could be. The iceberg was real. It hit the ship. But calling it the sole cause is like blaming a single match for burning down a building that was already soaked in gasoline. The survivor who said the iceberg did not sink the ship alone was not spreading a myth. She was pointing at everything the inquiry left out. The uncomfortable truth is boring compared to secret bankers and assassination plots. It is company negligence, outdated regulation, and a fire nobody wanted to admit to publicly because it would mean the ship left port already compromised. Boring, but true. And far more likely to happen again if nobody remembers it. More than 2,500 people died that night. Most of them in third class, most of them without a lifeboat seat, most of them never given a real chance. The survivor testimonies we dismiss as folklore are often the closest thing we have to the truth the official record left out. So next time someone tells you an iceberg sank the Titanic, ask them about the fire that burned for 10 days first. Ask them about the ship 10 miles away that stayed silent. The real mystery was never the ice. It was everything the ship's owners hoped nobody would ask about. What do you think really sank her?